What's happening, everybody? The Poets here. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. Today's video is going to be reviewing the Lian Li 011 Dynamic Mini Snow Edition PC case, which has just been a pleasure to build in. I've already built 3 systems in this, well, 3 different motherboards and a few other components. So yeah, 3 systems, and I have some thoughts. First off, in a lot of my TikTok videos and tweets and stuff like that, the main theme for the comments are, how in the world did I fit a 360mm AIO with an ATX motherboard inside of this case, because it's not supported? Well, I'm kind of old school, so just because something is not supported doesn't mean I'm not going to find a way to fit it in there, and that's kind of what happened. So if you're not comfortable with modding a PC case, and there's different tiers of modding PC cases. You have your simple zip ties. You have just some little nuts and bolts, and you're just going to screw things in different ways. You can start drilling, you can start cutting. So this way that I'm showing you today, simple zip ties that tend to be included in like motherboards or AIOs, or your simple zip ties that just come with those. So let's get into it. First off, this is the ASUS ROG Strix B550F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard that I have in this system. It's been stellar. I've been overclocking, I've just been doing all kinds of things in the BIOS. I really like it, and it is ATX. I have a 3900 XT on this motherboard as well, and this has been surprisingly impressive. I will say this. This is the AIO by ASUS, and it's a 360mm AIO, RGB fans, it's all white, with an Asetek pump, and I'm able to actually get this thing to max speed, just whether I'm like rendering video, playing games or anything like that, while this is actually entirely silent. It's so efficient with the fans and the radiator together that pretty much at like 1000 RPMs, that's all I need. And the temps are beautiful. So always pay attention to your fan curves, and I just did a video on that as well. So take a look at that video. But let's get into this. One of the first things you'll notice looking at this case is that it has 2 USB-A ports and a USB-C right up top, and then your audio jack as well as your power button, which is RGB. Then there's 2 vents on the side. The first one right here is actually for your intake or exhaust, depending on how you have it set up. I have 2 140mm Arctic fans, the Bionics fans, and over here is your other vent for your PSU. It's an SFX PSU. And then your hard drives are down here as well. I have the 3 bottom fans here as intake, and they're Arctic P12 fans. They're high static pressure fans and doing a wonderful job. And you'll see that these 2 are also intake as well. The only exhaust is the AIO, and this is the ASUS ROG Strix 360LC RGB, and I really like the style of these fans. So the colors are just beautiful inside of these fans right here. And it looks like, as you can tell, this should fit with no problem whatsoever. But it doesn't. Let's get into it. First, you simply remove the top off, and there's 2 screws in the back. They're captive thumb screws, and it just slides and comes right off. Then, as I do have this as exhaust, you don't really need this, but I just didn't want to lose it, so I put it on there. So you'll see here, I actually have zip ties, and the zip ties are actually going through the normal screw areas for the AIO, but they're just on the rail for the case. So it's not even because I wasn't really trying too hard. I just wanted it to stay up there because this is a temporary build. But there are a couple of ways that you can do this to make it a bit more permanent without having to cut or damage the case. So let me show you. If you go to your local hardware store, you can get maybe something like this. It doesn't have to be an L, it could be an L, it could be just straight, where you're just going to place it on the AIO, screw it in, and then you're just going to do an offset by maybe like a ½ an inch or so. And that will be perfectly fine. So you can kind of see it would be kind of like this or like this. And so you'll just need a little tiny bolt to go underneath there and screw it on in. So you'll have actually just enough space if you find the right size bolt. That's what I would do if I was keeping this system for an extended period of time. But for the most part, this is doing the job just nicely. And because they're zip ties, I can easily just cut it and take it apart. when you are bolting things, I don't want to say it's permanent, but it is much more annoying to disassemble. So this is working just fine and incredibly stable. I can put a lot of weight on this and it's not going anywhere. Now, you also have to be mindful of your RAM clearance as well. You can see there that I can maybe fit an eyelash in between the RAM and the fan. So be mindful of your thickness of your fans, as well as how far your RAM extends. The T-Force RAM right here is what I was using initially, and there was no way that this was actually going to fit, even with me moving the radiator all the way over to the side. It was just way too snug for my taste. So this HyperX RAM is doing just fine as well and looks stunning. This looks great as well, so I'll just use this for another build. You have to be mindful of the length of your AIO as well. All 360s are not exactly the same size. So this 360 here, if I wanted the tubes to be at the rear, I could not put a 120mm fan at the rear as exhaust. I would have to actually flip this so that the tubes would then be at the front, which is perfectly fine, but then they were then covering up the RGB for the RAM, and you know, when you have RGB, you can't have that covered up. More FPS in your games. One thing to think about is the length of your cables as well. So I'm using a Cooler Master 750 watt SFX power supply. This cable right here is perfectly fine, but this one was a bit tight. So this is the graphics card power supply. So there's two cables for this, and I do have them wrapped around to the back, and let me show you how tight that is. So this is how the back of the case actually looks. So this is the Cooler Master 750 watt PSU. I have a hard drive in here that is actually not even connected yet. And then you have this extra plate right here that you can put some SATA SSDs on as well. The power cables for the GPU are right here, and they're making a direct beeline right through here, and then coming through and around, if the camera wants to focus, through here underneath the GPU. And these are not the easiest things to try to bend and get like that, but I was able to make it work. Obviously doing a beeline over the GPU would have been easier, but it would not have looked as good. Overall, the O11 Dynamic Mini Snow Edition is a pleasure to build in. Very customizable, exceptional airflow. I'm getting wonderful temperatures, especially with this RTX 3080, courtesy of HP Omen. Thank you, HP. And the 3900 XT that I have in there has been nice and chilly, courtesy of this ASUS ROG Strix 360mm AIO. So if you're not comfortable with doing a little bit of modding, then just get a 240mm AIO. But if doing some zip tie action is perfectly fine for you, then maybe the 360 is the way to go. Mind you, you'll have to be very cautious with the size of your RAM, the size of your AIO, and the placement of your motherboard as well. So that's about it. Hit me up in the comment section if you have any questions. I definitely have to give a big shout out to Lian Li because one, this case is so fun to work in. Two, thank you for having it sent to me. I mean, this Snow Edition is impressive. And I think right now, because it's not released, only like Jay's 2 cents, Bitwit, Linus Tech Tips, and a couple people at ASUS have this case right now. So expect it to be released sometime soon in limited quantities. And I may actually end up picking up another one for some friends because it's beautiful and fun to work in. Additionally, ASUS, thank you very much. This has been an awesome build project with these motherboards. This one in particular is the B550F Gaming Wi-Fi. Really fun board to work with. I like the BIOS and I like the ASUS software to help you modify a few things as well. And then of course this 360mm AIO has impressed me. I will say that AIOs with Asetek pumps have been kind of meh, but this one able to do a great job cooling in a silent nature, spot on. So thank you very much. And if you have questions, hit me up in the comments sections, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, and all that good stuff, TikTok. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.